The plastic stool wobbled under her feet. Mila Torres gripped the edge of the sink and tried not to slip. The water was too hot. It always was. Her hands had turned red weeks ago and stayed that way. She did not complain. She had learned that complaining made things worse. The clock on the wall showed 10:47 p.m. The dishes were stacked higher than her head. Crusted plates, greasy pans, cups with dried coffee rings. She had been washing for almost 2 hours. Her arms ached. Her legs shook from standing on the stool, but she kept scrubbing because stopping was not an option. From somewhere down the hallway, voices rose. Sharp and mean. A man and a woman. She eats too much, the man said. His name was Carl Brecker. He was not her family. He was just the man who lived with her aunt. She's a kid, Carl. Kids eat. That was Denise, Mila's aunt, the woman who was supposed to take care of her after her mother died. Then she can earn it, Carl snapped. I didn't sign up for this. Mila kept her eyes on the dishes. She had heard this fight before. She had heard it 100 times. She was the burden. She was the problem. She was the reason there was never enough money, never enough food, never enough patience. The voices got louder. Something slammed. A door, maybe. Then footsteps stomped toward the back of the house and went quiet. Mila waited. She counted to 60 in her head. Then she counted again. When she was sure no one was coming, she dried her hands on her shirt and stepped down from the stool. She moved to the microwave and reached behind it. Her fingers found the cracked phone hidden in the gap between the microwave and the wall. She pulled it out slowly and held it close to her chest. The phone was old. The screen had a long crack down the middle. But it worked. And it had one number saved in it. Just one. A man named Duke Morrow had given it to her 3 weeks ago. She had been standing outside a gas station at midnight. Carl had been inside paying for gas and cigarettes. She had been alone in the dark, wearing a jacket too thin for the cold. Duke had walked up to her slowly. He was big. Tattoos covered his arms. His vest said something about a club. He had looked at her for a long moment and then asked if she was okay. Mila had not answered. She never answered strangers. But Duke had crouched down so he was not so tall. He had spoken softly. He had said, "If you ever need help, kid, you call this number. Day or night, I will answer." Then he had pressed the phone into her hand and walked away before Carl came back outside. Mila had kept it hidden ever since. She had never planned to use it. She did not trust adults. Adults made promises and broke them. Adults said they would protect her and then disappeared. But tonight was different. Tonight her back hurt so bad she could barely stand straight. The bruises were fresh, dark, purple, and black. Carl had been angry about something small, a glass of spilled milk. A look on her face he did not like. She could not remember anymore. The pain blurred the memory. She opened the phone and stared at the number. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She did not know if this was the right thing to do. She did not know if Duke would even remember her. But she was 8 years old, and she was tired, and there was no one else. She pressed the button and held the phone to her ear. The phone rang twice. Then a voice answered, deep and rough but calm. Hello? Behind him she could hear sounds, loud engines, men laughing, music playing from somewhere far away. Hello? He said again. Who is this? Mila opened her mouth, but the words stuck in her throat. Her hand trembled. The phone shook against her ear. Then Duke's voice changed, softer now, like he already knew. Kid? Is that you? Mila closed her eyes. She whispered 4 words. My back hurts bad. The line went completely silent. The sounds behind Duke disappeared. No engines. No laughter. Nothing. She heard him breathe in slow and deep. She heard something shift. A chair maybe. Footsteps on gravel. Then his voice came back. Low and steady. I'm coming. Stay hidden. Keep the phone on. The call ended. Mila slid down to the kitchen floor with her back against the cabinet. She held the phone against her chest and stared at the dark ceiling. Somewhere far away, Duke Morrow grabbed his helmet and walked toward his motorcycle without saying a word to anyone. His brothers saw him move. They saw his face. They did not ask questions. They followed. Duke did not know the address. He only knew a voice and a town named 30 miles east. The phone battery showed 12%. He had until morning to find her. 3 months before that phone call, Mila Torres had a different life. It was small, it was poor, but it was safe. She lived in a 1-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor of a building with no elevator. The carpet was worn and the walls were thin, but her mother made it feel like home. Rosa Torres worked double shifts cleaning hotel rooms. She came home late most nights with tired eyes and aching hands, but she always had enough energy left for Mila. Every night before bed, Rosa would sit on the edge of Mila's mattress and brush her hair, slow and gentle. She would count the strokes out loud, and Mila would count with her. When they reached 100, Rosa would kiss her forehead and whisper the same words. "You are brave, Mija. Never forget that." Mila believed her. She believed everything her mother told her. Then one Tuesday morning, Rosa collapsed in the hallway of a hotel she had cleaned for 4 years. A heart condition. No one knew about it. Not even Rosa. The paramedics tried to save her in the ambulance. They failed. Mila was sitting in her fourth-grade classroom when it happened. She was coloring a picture of a butterfly when a teacher appeared at the door. The teacher's face was pale. She asked Mila to come with her. They walked to the principal's office in silence. A woman from the county was waiting there. She had a folder in her hands and a sad look on her face. She told Mila that her mother was gone. She used soft words and careful sentences, but the meaning was the same. Rosa was dead. Mila was alone. That was the last time Mila cried. She sat in that office chair with tears running down her cheeks and her hands shaking in her lap. She did not make a sound. She just let the tears fall until there were no more left. After that day, something inside her went quiet. Mila had no father listed on any document. No grandparents, no cousins, no aunts or uncles except one, Denise Hargrove, Rosa's half-sister from a different father. The two women had not spoken in 6 years. There had been a fight over money. Hard words exchanged. Doors slammed shut, but Denise agreed to take Mila in. The county was relieved. One less child in the foster system. One less file on someone's desk. At first, Denise seemed kind. She bought Mila a new dress with pink flowers on it. She gave her a small room near the kitchen with a window that looked out at the backyard. She told Mila that everything would be okay. Mila wanted to believe her. She tried. But within 2 weeks, the kindness faded. A man named Carl Brecker moved into the house. He was tall and heavy with a voice that filled every room. He complained about everything. The electric bill, the grocery costs, the noise. And he complained about Mila. "Why is she still here?" he asked Denise one night when he thought Mila was asleep. "She's not your kid. She's not my kid. She's just eating our food and taking up space." Denise did not argue. She just shrugged and said she would figure something out. But she never did. Instead, she stopped defending Mila. Then she stopped cooking for her. Then she started handing her lists every morning. Chores that needed to be done before she could eat. Dishes, laundry, sweeping, mopping, scrubbing bathrooms. Mila became invisible. She moved through the house like a ghost. She did what she was told. She ate what she was given. She did not ask for more. When she made mistakes, Carl punished her. His belt left marks on her back that she learned to hide. She wore long sleeves even when it was warm. She never looked adults in the eye. She never spoke unless spoken to. That was her life now. That was who she had become. A girl without a voice. 3 weeks before the phone call, Carl stopped at a gas station late at night. Mila was in the truck with him. He told her to wait outside while he paid. She stood near the pumps in the cold with her arms wrapped around herself. A motorcycle pulled up nearby. The engine rumbled and then went silent. A man climbed off. He was big. His arms were covered in tattoos. His leather vest had patches on it. He started walking toward the store. Then he stopped. He looked at Mila. She looked away fast, but she felt his eyes on her. He walked over slowly. He crouched down so he was not so tall. "You okay, kid?" he asked. Mila did not answer. She could not. Carl would be back any minute. The man studied her face. His expression changed. Something dark passed through his eyes, something heavy. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a cracked phone. He pressed it into her hand. "If you ever need help," he said quietly, "you call the number saved on this. Day or night. I will answer." Then he stood up and walked away before Carl came outside. Mila hid the phone in her jacket. She did not know why she kept it, but Duke Morrow knew. Even then, his instincts had screamed at him that something was terribly wrong. Now speeding through the night toward a town he barely knew, he finally understood why. Carl Brecker sat at the kitchen table with a beer in his hand and his eyes on the hallway. He was waiting for the girl to make a mistake. She always did. Sooner or later, they all did. He took a slow drink and set the bottle down without a sound. He was not a loud man. He did not yell or throw things. He did not need to. His silence was enough. His stare was enough. The way he filled a room with his presence was enough. That was the thing about Carl. He was not the kind of monster people expected. He did not rage or scream. He calculated. He watched. He waited. Mila came out of the laundry room carrying a basket of folded clothes. She kept her head down. She moved along the wall like she was trying to disappear into it. She did not look at Carl as she passed, but Carl looked at her. He counted things in his head. The food she ate, the water she used, the electricity that kept her light on at night. Every number added up to a cost. And in Carl's mind, she was not worth it. "You missed a spot on the counter," he said. Mila stopped walking. Her fingers tightened on the laundry basket. She did not turn around. "Go fix it." She set the basket down and walked to the kitchen. She picked up a rag and wiped the counter that was already clean. Carl watched her the whole time. He said nothing else. He did not have to. When she finished, she picked up the basket and disappeared down the hall. Carl finished his beer and reached for another one. He grew up in a house where children were seen and not heard. His father had taught him that lesson with the back of his hand. Carl learned to be quiet. He learned to obey. He learned that pain made you strong. Now he believed it was his job to teach the same lesson. Denise came through the front door 20 minutes later. She smelled like gasoline and cheap coffee. Her shift at the gas station had started at 5 in the morning and ended at 2 in the afternoon. She was tired every day. Tired of working. Tired of this house. Tired of everything. She dropped her keys on the counter and opened the refrigerator. "She do everything on the list?" Denise asked without looking at Carl. "Most of it," he said. "She's slow." Denise shrugged. She pulled out a container of leftover pasta and stuck it in the microwave. She did not ask about Mila. She did not check on her. She did not care. That was the truth Denise would never admit. She did not care about Mila. She had agreed to take her in because it was easier than saying no. The county had called. They had explained the situation. They had made it sound simple. Just sign some papers. Take the girl. Get a small check every month. Denise had said yes because she needed the money. That was the only reason. And every time she looked at Mila, she saw Rosa, her half-sister, the one their mother had loved more, the one who was always prettier and kinder and better. Rosa had gotten everything Denise wanted, and now Rosa was dead, but her ghost lived on in Mila's face. Denise hated that face. So she let Carl handle the girl. She let him set the rules. She told herself he was teaching Mila discipline, structure. She told herself it was good for her. The truth was, she just did not want to deal with it. The night before Mila made the phone call, she dropped a glass. It slipped from her wet hands while she was washing dishes. It hit the floor and shattered. The sound echoed through the kitchen like a gunshot. Mila froze. Her heart stopped. Her breath stopped. Everything stopped. Carl appeared in the doorway. He did not say anything at first. He just looked at the broken glass on the floor. Then he looked at Mila. His jaw tightened. His hand moved to his belt. "Come here." Mila did not move. She could not. "I said come here." She walked toward him on shaking legs. She stopped 2 feet away. Close enough. The belt came off in one smooth motion. Carl folded it in half. He grabbed Mila's arm and turned her around. 3 strikes across her back. Fast and hard. Mila bit her lip until she tasted blood. She did not scream. She had learned that screaming made it last longer. When it was over, Carl put his belt back on and walked away. He did not say another word. Mila cleaned up the glass with trembling hands. Then she finished the dishes. Then she went to her room. She lay on her small bed and stared at the ceiling. Her back burned. Every breath hurt. She thought about the biker at the gas station, the one who had given her the phone. She thought about his voice, calm and low. She thought about his words, "If you ever need help, you call." She reached under her mattress and pulled out the cracked phone. She held it against her chest. Her finger hovered over the call button. But she was afraid. Afraid of what would happen if she called. Afraid of what would happen if she did not. She put the phone back and closed her eyes. The next night, after more chores and more pain, her fear finally became smaller than her suffering. She dialed. Duke Morrow pulled his helmet on and swung his leg over the motorcycle. His hands moved without thought. Keys in the ignition. Engine roaring to life. Kickstand up. 3 of his brothers were already mounting their bikes behind him. They had seen his face when he walked out of the clubhouse. They had not asked a single question. They just followed. That was how the Iron Oath Brotherhood worked. When one of them moved with purpose, the others moved with him. Duke was 53 years old. He had been riding with this club for 26 years. His leather vest carried patches that told stories most people would never understand. He looked like the kind of man mothers pulled their children away from in parking lots. His voice sounded like gravel scraping against concrete, but the men who rode with him knew the truth. They knew what lived underneath all that leather and ink. 15 years ago, Duke had a daughter. Her name was Lily. She was 7 years old with blonde hair and a laugh that could fill any room. She loved butterflies and strawberry ice cream and falling asleep on her father's chest while he watched television. Duke was on a long ride with his brothers when it happened. A 4-day trip through the mountains. He had kissed Lily goodbye on a Thursday morning and promised to bring her something special when he came back. He never got the chance. A man broke into their home on Saturday night. A robbery gone wrong. Duke's wife hid in the closet and survived. Lily did not. By the time Duke got the call, his daughter was already gone. He rode home so fast he almost killed himself twice. But it did not matter. Nothing mattered after that. His wife left him a year later. She blamed him for being gone. She blamed him for choosing the road over his family. Duke never argued with her. He blamed himself too. After Lily died, something inside Duke changed. The anger never went away, but it found a new direction. He swore he would never ignore a child in danger again. Not ever. Not for any reason. He started volunteering at shelters on weekends. He joined every charity ride his club organized for foster kids. He became the man his brothers called when something involved children. When a kid needed protecting, Duke was the first one through the door. His code was simple: protect the small ones. Always. That night at the gas station 3 weeks ago, Duke had been filling his tank when he noticed the girl. She stood near the pumps in the cold with her arms wrapped around herself. Thin as a stick, quiet as a shadow. Her eyes were fixed on the ground. Duke started walking toward the store. Then he stopped. Something made him turn around. Something in the way she stood. Something in the way she held herself like she was trying to disappear. He walked over to her slowly. He crouched down so he would not tower over her. "You okay, kid?" he asked. She did not answer. She did not even look at him, but her hands trembled at her sides. Duke recognized that silence. He had seen it before, 15 years ago, in his own daughter. The week before she died, Lily had gone quiet too. She had stopped laughing. She had stopped asking questions. She had just looked at him with eyes that seemed too old for her face. Duke did not know what was happening to this girl, but he knew something was wrong. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an old phone he kept for emergencies. He pressed it into her small hand. "If you ever need help," he said quietly, "you call the number saved on this. Day or night. I will answer." Then he stood up and walked away. A man came out of the gas station and headed toward a pickup truck. The girl climbed into the passenger seat without a word. Duke memorized the license plate before the truck pulled away. He did not sleep well that night, or the night after. Now, with Mila's whispered words still echoing in his ears, Duke had only one mission: find her. He pulled out of the clubhouse parking lot and onto the dark highway. His 3 brothers rode in formation behind him. Boomer on his left, Shepherd on his right, Colt bringing up the rear. None of them knew where they were going. Duke had no address, no directions. He did not even know the girl's name. All he had was a license plate number burned into his memory and a phone battery that was dying on the other end. He twisted the throttle and pushed the bike faster. 30 miles east. That was all the girl had been able to tell him before the call dropped. 30 miles east in a town called Ridley. Somewhere in that town a little girl was waiting. Hurt. Scared. Running out of time. Duke did not have a plan. He only had purpose, and he would not stop riding until he found her. Duke's phone crackled with static as the highway stretched out beneath his wheels. The signal was weak this far from the city. He pressed the phone harder against his ear and tried to hear the small voice on the other end. "Mila, listen to me," he said over the roar of the engine. "I need you to look out your window. Tell me what you see." The line went quiet for a moment. Then her whisper came through, thin and scared. "A yellow house. Across the street." Duke nodded even though she could not see him. He gestured to Shepherd, riding beside him. Shepherd pulled a small notebook from his vest and wrote it down while keeping one hand on the handlebars. "Good. What else? Any signs? A store, maybe?" "There's a church," Mila said. "Far away. I can see the top of it. The pointy part." "A steeple," Duke said. "That's good, kid. Real good. What about sounds? Anything you hear in the morning?" "A dog. It barks every day when the sun comes up. It's loud. Duke filed every detail away in his mind. Behind him, Boomer and Colt kept formation. The four motorcycles cut through the darkness like arrows aimed at a target none of them could see yet. Okay, Mila, you did great. Keep the phone hidden. Keep it safe. I'm coming. How long? She whispered. Duke checked the mile marker flashing past. Ridley Creek was still 20 miles out. Soon. Real soon. Just hold on. The line went dead. Duke looked at his screen. The call had dropped. He shoved the phone into his vest and pushed the throttle harder. Ridley Creek appeared around 2 in the morning. It was the kind of town that rolled up its sidewalks after dark. Small houses lined quiet streets. A single traffic light blinked yellow at the main intersection. A water tower rose in the distance with the town name painted on its side in faded letters. Duke pulled into an empty parking lot behind a closed hardware store. His brothers gathered around him. Engines off. Helmets removed. The only sound was the ticking of cooling metal. Harlan stepped forward. He was the oldest of the group, 60 years old with gray hair pulled back in a ponytail. Before joining the club, he had worked as a private investigator for almost 20 years. He still had contacts in places most people did not know existed. Tell me everything the girls said, Harlan ordered. Duke repeated every detail. The yellow house, the church steeple, the barking dog. Harlan listened without interrupting. When Duke finished, Harlan pulled out his phone and walked a few steps away. Amos crouched beside his bike and made his own call. He had a contact at the DMV who owed him a favor from years back. He read off the license plate number Duke had memorized at the gas station 3 weeks ago. The waiting was the hardest part. Duke paced the parking lot with his hands in his pockets. Every minute felt like an hour. Every hour felt like a lifetime. At 3 in the morning, Amos got the answer. Carl Brecker, he said. The truck is registered to a Carl Brecker. Address is 412 Maple Lane. Duke started walking toward his bike. Harlan grabbed his arm. Hold up, Harlan said firmly. We can't just ride up there in the dark. Watch me, Duke growled. Think about it, Harlan said. His voice stayed calm, but his grip tightened. 4 bikers show up at some house in the middle of the night. What happens next? Cops get called. Guns come out. The kid ends up in the system before sunrise. Colt stepped closer. He's right, Duke. We need to be smart about this. Duke's jaw clenched. His hands balled into fists at his sides. Everything in him screamed to ride to that house and tear down the door. But he knew his brothers were right. He knew what happened when people like him acted on impulse. So what's the play? Duke asked through gritted teeth. Harlan released his arm. We watch the house at dawn. Confirm the girl is there. Document what we can. Then we create a situation where she gets removed safely. Legally. In public where everyone can see. The 4 men found an all-night diner on the edge of town. They took a booth in the back corner and ordered coffee none of them drank. The sun started to rise outside the window. Orange light spilled across the empty parking lot. Duke stared at the table. His legs shook under the booth. He could not stop moving. He could not stop thinking about Mila alone in that house with a man who hurt children. Harlan reached over and put a hand on Duke's shoulder. He did not say anything. He did not need to. The weight of his hand said enough. They sat in silence as the diner slowly filled with early morning customers. Farmers, truck drivers, people starting their ordinary days. At 7:14, Duke's phone buzzed on the table. A text message. From Mila's number. 2 words glowed on the screen. He's awake. Duke's motorcycle sat 2 blocks from the house on Maple Lane. His helmet stayed on. His visor stayed down. He looked like any other biker taking a break on the side of the road. No one paid him any attention. The house was small and gray with a chain-link fence around the yard. The curtains in every window were pulled shut. A pickup truck sat in the driveway. The same truck Duke had memorized 3 weeks ago at that gas station. He watched. He waited. He did not move. Amos had positioned himself at the gas station on the corner. He sat on a bench near the air pumps with a newspaper open in front of him. His eyes never touched the pages. They stayed fixed on the street. Harlan walked into a coffee shop across from the main road. He ordered a cup he never drank and took a seat by the window. From there, he could see Carl's truck and the intersection leading to the house. Colt circled the neighborhood in slow loops on his bike. If anyone tried to leave by the back roads, he would see them. The morning stretched out, long and quiet. At 8 o'clock, the front door of the gray house opened. A woman stepped out. She was thin with tired eyes and messy hair. Denise Hargrove. Mila's aunt. She climbed into a rusted sedan and backed out of the driveway without looking at the house. She drove toward the gas station on the corner, past Amos, and turned onto the main road heading out of town. Her shift at work started soon. The house went still again. The curtains stayed closed. No one else came out. Duke checked his phone. No messages from Mila. The battery on her phone was probably almost dead by now. He had told her to keep it hidden. He hoped she listened. An hour passed. Then another. The sun rose higher and the morning grew warm. Duke felt sweat roll down his back under his leather vest. He did not take the helmet off. He did not look away from the house. At 11 o'clock, the front door finally opened again. Carl Brecker walked out first. He was bigger than Duke remembered. Thick arms and a heavy gut. He wore a white t-shirt stained with something yellow. His face was red like he had been drinking. Behind him came Mila. Duke's chest tightened. She was wearing a long-sleeved shirt even though the temperature was already pushing into the 80s. She walked slowly, carefully, like every step hurt. Carl grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the truck. Mila did not resist. She did not make a sound. She just followed with her head down and her shoulders curled inward. Duke pulled out his phone and sent a single word to his brothers. Moving. 3 replies came back within seconds. Harlan saw the truck pulling out. Amos was ready. Colt would follow from the south. Duke waited until the truck turned onto the main road before starting his engine. He followed at a distance, far enough to stay invisible, close enough to never lose sight. The truck drove 3 miles to a grocery store on the edge of town. Carl parked near the front entrance and climbed out. He walked around to the passenger side and opened the door. Mila stepped down slowly, keeping her eyes on the ground. Carl grabbed her wrist and pulled her toward the store entrance. His grip was tight, too tight. Mila stumbled but caught herself before she fell. Duke parked his bike at the far end of the lot. He removed his helmet and walked toward the store. His heart pounded, but his face stayed calm. He pushed through the automatic doors and grabbed a basket like any other customer. The store was half empty. A few people pushed carts through the aisles. Soft music played from speakers in the ceiling. Everything looked normal, peaceful. But Duke saw what others did not. He found them in the cereal aisle. Carl stood with his back to the shelves, scrolling through his phone. Mila stood beside him with her hands clasped in front of her. She did not touch anything. She did not look at the colorful boxes. She just waited. Duke pretended to study a box of crackers on the opposite shelf. He glanced at Mila. She looked at him. Her eyes widened for half a second. Recognition flashed across her face. Then it disappeared. Her expression went flat. Empty. She looked away like she had never seen him before. Duke's hands trembled around the cracker box. He wanted to grab her right now. He wanted to walk over there and take her away from that man. Every muscle in his body screamed at him to move. But he stayed still. They needed more. They needed witnesses who would remember. They needed the danger to be visible to everyone. Carl dropped his phone in his pocket and grabbed Mila's arm again. They walked toward the checkout line at the front of the store. A woman stood behind them with a cart full of groceries. She watched Carl yank Mila forward in the line. Her frown deepened. Duke set down his basket and moved closer. The moment was coming. Carl paced near a wooden bench at the edge of the park. His phone was pressed to his ear. His free hand gestured in the air as he argued with whoever was on the other end. His voice was low but sharp, angry about something. Always angry about something. Mila sat on the bench with her hands folded in her lap. She did not swing her legs. She did not look at the playground nearby where other children laughed and chased each other. She sat perfectly still like a statue someone had forgotten to move. Duke pulled his motorcycle to the curb across the street. He turned off the engine and sat there for a moment watching. The park was small with a rusted swing set and a few picnic tables scattered under the trees. A normal place on a normal day. Except nothing about this was normal. Harlan pulled up beside him a minute later. He removed his helmet and followed Duke's gaze to the bench where Mila sat. "That's her?" Harlan asked quietly. Duke nodded. He could not speak. His throat felt tight. They watched Carl pace back and forth. He never looked at Mila. He never checked on her. She was just there, like a bag he had set down and forgotten about. Duke removed his helmet slowly. The morning air was warm against his face. He studied Mila across the distance. She looked even smaller than he remembered. Thinner, too. The long sleeves of her shirt seemed wrong in the heat. Then Mila looked up. Her eyes found Duke across the street. She did not smile. She did not wave. She just looked at him with those quiet eyes that held too much pain for someone so young. and then she moved her hand. It was a small motion, almost nothing. Her fingers pressed against her leg. 3 fingers extended, then 2, then 1. To anyone else, it would look like fidgeting, a nervous child playing with her hands. But Duke recognized it instantly. His whole body went cold. It was a distress signal. His club ran child safety workshops at schools across 3 counties. They taught kids how to ask for help when they could not use words. 3 fingers, 2 fingers, 1 finger. A silent cry that said everything. Help me. I am not safe. Duke had watched his own daughter learn that signal 15 years ago. Lily had practiced it at the kitchen table, giggling as she pressed her fingers against her knee. She thought it was a game. Duke had thought it would protect her. It did not. But now another child was using it. Another little girl was reaching out in the only way she knew how. And this time, Duke was here. This time, he could answer. He turned to Harlan. Their eyes met. No words passed between them. None were needed. 26 years of riding together had taught them to communicate without speaking. Harlan nodded once. The plan shifted in that single moment. They would approach. They would create a scene in public where everyone could see. They would force Carl to react in front of witnesses. Duke stepped off his bike. His boots hit the pavement. He started walking toward the park with slow and steady steps. Harlan fell in beside him. 2 men in leather vests crossing a quiet street. Nothing threatening, nothing aggressive. Just 2 people walking toward a bench. Mila watched them come. She did not move from her spot, but something changed in her posture. Her shoulders dropped just slightly. The tension in her small body eased by a fraction. It was relief, invisible to anyone who was not looking for it. But Duke saw it clearly. She knew he was coming. She knew help was finally here. Carl kept pacing with the phone against his ear. He had not noticed them yet. He was too caught up in his conversation, too focused on whatever problem was more important than the child he was supposed to be watching. Duke and Harlan reached the edge of the park. They stepped onto the grass. 30 feet from the bench. 20 feet. 15. Carl ended his call and shoved the phone into his pocket. He turned around. His eyes found the 2 bikers walking toward him. He stopped moving. His jaw tightened. His gaze flicked from Duke to Harlan and back again. Duke kept walking. His face showed nothing. His pace did not change. He was calm and steady like the surface of still water. Carl's eyes narrowed. His hand reached down and closed around Mila's arm. "Who the hell are you?" he said. Duke stopped 10 feet from the bench. He looked at Carl, then he looked at Mila, then he looked back at Carl. "Just passing through," Duke said. His voice was low and even. "Nice day for the park." Carl's grip tightened on Mila's arm. She winced but did not make a sound. "Yeah, well," Carl said slowly, "this is a private conversation. Move along." Duke did not move. Harlan stood beside him like a wall, and across the park 2 mothers at the playground turned to watch. Duke stopped 10 feet from the bench. His hands stayed open at his sides. His posture was loose and calm. Nothing threatening. Nothing aggressive. Just a man standing in a public park on a quiet morning. He did not look at Carl first. He looked at Mila. "Hey there," Duke said softly. "You doing okay?" Mila's eyes lifted to meet his. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. Her fingers trembled in her lap. Carl moved fast. He stepped directly between Duke and the bench, blocking Mila from view. His shoulders squared up. His jaw tightened. "Who are you?" Carl demanded. "What do you want?" Duke kept his eyes on Carl's face. His voice stayed even. "Just checking on the little one." She looked upset. "She's fine," Carl snapped. "Mind your own business." He reached back and grabbed Mila's shoulder. He pulled her up from the bench and positioned her behind him like a shield. Mila stumbled on her feet. A small sound escaped her throat. Pain. Duke saw it. His hands curled into fists at his sides. He forced them open again. Harlan stepped up beside him. His voice was calm and pleasant like they were discussing the weather. "No trouble here, friend. Just asking a simple question. You seem a little tense." Carl's eyes darted between the 2 men. His grip on Mila's shoulder did not loosen. "I don't have to answer anything. She's my kid. We're leaving." "She's your kid?" Harlan asked. His eyebrows lifted slightly. "Funny. She doesn't look much like you." Carl's face flushed red. His mouth twisted into something ugly. "She's my girlfriend's niece. Not that it's any of your business. Now get out of my way." He turned to pull Mila toward the parking lot. As he moved, her sleeve rode up her arm. Harlan's eyes dropped to her wrist. A bruise circled her thin arm. dark purple and black against her pale skin. The shape of fingers pressed too hard. "Hold on," Harlan said. His voice grew louder, loud enough for others to hear. "What happened to her wrist there? That's a nasty bruise." Carl froze mid-step. He looked down at Mila's arm, then back at Harlan. His expression shifted. The anger slipped for a moment. Something else replaced it. Fear. "She fell," Carl said quickly. "Kids fall. She's clumsy, always tripping over things." He laughed, but the sound was thin and hollow. His hand tightened on Mila's shoulder until his knuckles went white. Mila did not react. She had been trained not to react. Duke took one step closer. His voice dropped low but stayed steady. "You're holding her pretty tight there. Why is that?" Carl's head snapped toward him. His lips pulled back from his teeth. "Back off. I'm warning you." Duke did not move. He did not blink. He looked past Carl to the small girl standing behind him. "Mila," Duke said gently, "do you want to stay with this man?" The park went quiet. The sound of children playing faded into the background. The jogger who had stopped nearby stood frozen on the path. The mother with the stroller watched from 20 feet away. An elderly man on a nearby bench lowered his newspaper. Mila looked at Carl. Her face was blank, empty. The expression of a child who had learned that showing emotion brought punishment. Then she looked at Duke. Her lips parted. Her chest rose with a small breath. She started. "She doesn't have to answer that," Carl interrupted loudly. "This is harassment. You're harassing a child. I'm calling the police." He fumbled for his phone with his free hand. His other hand stayed locked on Mila's shoulder. A woman stepped out from the small crowd that had gathered. She was in her 40s with short brown hair. She held her phone up in front of her face, recording. "Go ahead and call them," she said firmly. "I think that's a great idea. I've got everything on video right here." Carl's face went pale. He looked at the woman, then at her phone, then at the other faces watching him. Another person had pulled out their phone. A teenager sat on a picnic table nearby, recording everything. "This is insane," Carl said. His voice cracked. "You're all crazy. She's fine. Everything is fine." Harlan smiled slowly. It was not a friendly smile. "You said you wanted to call the police. That sounds like a great idea to me. Let's get them out here. Clear everything up." Carl's mouth opened, then closed. His eyes moved from face to face. The bikers who would not back down. The phones pointed at him. The witnesses who had stopped whatever they were doing to watch. For the first time since they arrived, Duke saw something new in Carl's eyes. Panic. Carl looked at the crowd. He looked at the exit to the parking lot. He looked at Mila still standing silent behind him. He was trapped and he knew it. Carl shoved Duke in the chest. It was not hard, just a quick push with both hands. The kind of motion a man makes when he feels the walls closing in around him. Duke stepped back. He did not raise his hands. He did not shove back. He let the momentum carry him. One step to the side and then he stopped, steady as a stone. The crowd watched. The phones kept recording. The woman with short brown hair moved closer with her screen aimed directly at Carl's face. Duke turned his head slightly. He looked at the gathered witnesses. His voice was calm and clear when he spoke. "Look at this child's arms." Mila stood frozen behind Carl. Her sleeve had ridden up past her wrist. The bruises were visible to everyone now. Dark purple fingers pressed into pale skin. Old marks layered over new ones. The mother with the stroller took 3 quick steps forward. She looked at Mila's arm, then at Mila's face. Her expression shifted from curiosity to horror in a single heartbeat. She pulled out her phone and dialed. Her voice was shaking when she spoke. "I need police at the park on Clearwater Drive. There's a child here. She has bruises everywhere. A man is trying to take her." Carl's head snapped toward her. His face twisted with rage. "What are you doing? Mind your own business." "She's my—" "I saw the bruises," the woman interrupted. Her voice grew stronger. "I saw you grab her. The police are on their way." The elderly man who had been sitting on a nearby bench rose to his feet. He was tall and thin with white hair and weathered hands. He walked slowly but purposefully toward the parking lot exit and stopped directly in the path between Carl and his truck. He crossed his arms over his chest. He did not say a word. He did not need to. Carl looked around wildly. Phones everywhere. Witnesses everywhere. His only escape route blocked by an old man who refused to move. "This is insane," Carl shouted. "You're all insane. She's fine. We're leaving." He grabbed Mila's arm and yanked her forward, hard enough to make her stumble, hard enough to make her cry out. Harlan moved, smooth and silent. He stepped directly into Carl's path, not close enough to touch, close enough to block. His arms hung loose at his sides. His face showed nothing. "Let go of the girl," Harlan said quietly. Carl's grip tightened. His knuckles went white around Mila's thin arm. "Get out of my way or I'll—" "No." The voice was small, barely louder than a whisper, but everyone heard it. Mila had spoken. Carl froze. His head turned slowly to look down at the girl beside him. His mouth hung open. "What did you say?" he demanded. Mila looked up at him. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. "No," she said again. "I don't want to go with you." The park went completely silent. Even the children on the playground seemed to stop moving. Every person in the crowd watched the small girl who had finally found her voice. Duke stepped forward slowly. He lowered himself down until he was at Mila's eye level. His knee pressed into the grass. His hands stayed open and visible at his sides. "Mila," he said gently, "do you want to come with us? Somewhere safe?" Mila looked at him. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Her lower lip trembled, but she nodded. "Once, twice, certain." Carl lunged. He dropped Mila's arm and threw himself toward Duke with both fists raised. But he never made it. Two men from the crowd grabbed him before he took his second step. The jogger who had been recording caught one arm. A man in a baseball cap caught the other. "Let me go," Carl screamed. "This is kidnapping. Those bikers are criminals. She's my responsibility. You can't do this." No one listened. No one let go. Sirens grew louder in the distance. Red and blue lights flickered through the trees at the edge of the park. Duke stayed focused on Mila. He held out his hand slowly. Palm up, open. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe now. No one is going to hurt you anymore." Mila stared at his hand. Her whole body trembled. 3 months of fear and pain and silence pressed down on her small shoulders. Then she reached out. Her fingers wrapped around Duke's hand. Her grip was weak, fragile, but it was certain. For the first time since her mother died, Mila Torres had made a choice. She had chosen her own safety. She had chosen to trust someone. The police cars pulled into the parking lot. Doors opened. Officers stepped out, but Mila did not look at them. She looked at Duke, and she did not let go. 2 police cars pulled into the parking lot with their sirens cutting through the morning air. Officers stepped out with their hands resting near their belts. They scanned the scene quickly. A crowd gathered around 2 men in leather vests, a child holding one of their hands, a man being restrained by bystanders. The first officer approached Carl. The second moved toward Duke and Harlan with cautious steps. "What's going on here?" the officer asked. His eyes moved from Duke's vest to Mila's small hand wrapped around his fingers. Duke did not move. He kept his voice calm and even. "This child was being hurt. We stepped in. The crowd can tell you the rest." The woman with the stroller pushed forward before the officer could respond. She held up her phone with the video already playing. "I recorded everything," she said firmly. "That man grabbed the girl. Hard. Multiple times. These 2 bikers never touched him. They just asked questions, and the whole thing came apart." The elderly man who had blocked the parking lot exit walked over. His voice was steady despite his age. "I saw the bruises on her arms before anyone said a word. That child is terrified of him. Look at her. She won't even glance in his direction." The jogger stepped up next. He turned his phone toward the officer. "I have footage from a different angle. The girl used a distress signal. 3 fingers, 2 fingers, 1 finger. That's not random. She was asking for help." The officer looked at Mila. She stood close to Duke with her small body pressed against his leg. Her eyes stayed fixed on the ground. She had not spoken since the police arrived. "Sweetheart," the officer said gently, "can you tell me what happened?" Mila's grip tightened on Duke's hand. She did not answer. 20 minutes later, a white sedan pulled up to the edge of the park. A woman in a gray blazer stepped out carrying a folder. She was a social worker. Her name tag read Patricia Hollis. She walked straight to Mila and crouched down to her level. Her voice was soft and warm. "Hi there. My name is Patricia. I'm here to help you. Can we talk for just a minute?" Mila looked up at Duke. He gave her a small nod. "It's okay," he said quietly. "She's one of the good ones. I'll be right here." Mila let go of his hand slowly. She followed Patricia to a bench a few feet away. They sat side by side. Patricia asked simple questions. Where did Mila live? Who took care of her? How did she get the bruises on her arms? At first, Mila answered in single words. Yes. No. Sometimes. Then something broke open inside her. The words started pouring out. The chores that never ended. The food she was not allowed to eat until they finished. The belt that Carl used when she made mistakes. The cold room where she slept alone. The phone she had hidden behind the microwave. Patricia's face grew tight. Her pen stopped moving across her notepad. She listened without interrupting. When Mila finished, Patricia stood up slowly. She walked a few steps away and pulled out her radio. "I need emergency custody protocols initiated immediately," she said. "Child in imminent danger. Confirmed abuse. Guardian to be placed in temporary hold." Across town, a phone rang in a small apartment. A woman named Elena Ruiz picked up on the second ring. She listened. Her hand flew to her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. Elena was Rosa Torres's oldest friend. They had grown up together. Elena had been at Mila's birth. She had brought birthday cupcakes every year. She had called Mila her little bird. When Rosa died, Elena had tried to find Mila. She had called the county. She had asked questions. But they told her the child had been placed with family. Elena had no legal standing, no way to intervene, until now. She grabbed her keys and ran to her car. She drove faster than she should have. She did not care. When she pulled into the park, she saw Mila sitting on a bench with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. A female officer stood nearby. Patricia was writing something in her folder. Elena stepped out of the car. Her legs shook beneath her. Mila looked up. Their eyes met across the grass. Mila remembered. She remembered the cupcakes with pink frosting. She remembered the silly songs. She remembered being called Little Bird. Elena ran. Mila stood. They crashed into each other in the middle of the path. Elena dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around the small girl. Mila buried her face in Elena's shoulder. Neither of them spoke. There were no words needed. Duke watched from a distance. He stood beside his motorcycle with his helmet in his hands. Harlan stood next to him. Neither of them moved. The child was safe. The child was home. Duke turned and started walking toward his bike. His job was done. Wait. The voice was small, but it carried across the quiet park. Duke stopped. He turned around slowly. Mila stood a few steps from Elena. Her eyes were red, her cheeks were wet, but she was looking directly at him. "Thank you," she said. Duke's eyes closed for a moment. His chest rose with a deep breath. When he opened them again, he gave her a single nod. Then he put on his helmet and walked away. Carl Brecker sat in the back of a police cruiser, with his hands cuffed behind his back. His face was red. His mouth kept moving, but no one outside the car could hear what he was saying. The officers had stopped listening the moment they saw the bruises on Mila's arms. Within 48 hours, the investigation had expanded beyond the park. Detectives visited the gray house on Maple Lane. They took photographs of Mila's small room near the kitchen, the thin mattress on the floor, the single blanket worn through in 3 places, the plastic stool she used to reach the sink. They found the belt in Carl's bedroom closet, dark stains on the leather that matched the marks on Mila's back. Denise Hargrove was brought in for questioning the same afternoon. She sat in an interview room with her arms crossed and her jaw set. At first, she denied everything. She said Carl was strict but fair. She said Mila was clumsy. She said kids exaggerate. Then the detective showed her the photographs. Denise's face went pale. Her voice cracked when she finally spoke. "I knew," she admitted. "I knew what he was doing. I didn't want to deal with it." She was charged as an accessory to child abuse. Her bond was set at $50,000. She could not pay it. The evidence from the house painted a picture that no one could deny. Medical reports documented old injuries that had healed wrong. School records showed 37 absences in 3 months. Teachers had written notes about Mila's silence and her refusal to eat lunch. No one had followed up. Neighbors came forward one by one. An elderly woman who lived across the street said she heard yelling late at night. A young couple next door admitted they had seen Carl grab Mila's arm hard enough to lift her off the ground. None of them had called anyone. They all said the same thing. They did not want to get involved. They were not sure what they saw. They thought someone else would handle it. No one had handled it. Not until 4 bikers rode into town with nothing but a license plate number and a dying phone battery. The local news picked up the story within days. Headlines spread across the county. Some were skeptical. They questioned why bikers had been involved. They wondered about the club's motives. They used words like vigilante and reckless. But most of the coverage was different. Most of it focused on what actually happened. A child in danger. Strangers who noticed. a community that finally stood up. The Iron Oath Brotherhood released a short statement through their website. It explained their community programs, the charity rides for foster children, the school workshops about safety signals, the partnerships with local shelters. It said nothing about heroism. It said only that every adult has a responsibility to protect children who cannot protect themselves. Duke was asked for an interview once. A local reporter caught him outside the clubhouse a week after the rescue. She asked how he knew something was wrong. She asked what made him act. Duke looked at her for a long moment before answering. "You don't need a reason to help a kid," he said. "You need a reason not to. And there is no good reason." He walked away before she could ask another question. He never mentioned Lily. He never would. Elena Ruiz filed for emergency guardianship 3 days after the park. The court reviewed her application within the week. She had a stable home, a steady job as a dental hygienist, a clean background check, and 15 years of friendship with Rosa Torres, documented in photographs and letters. The judge approved temporary custody while the adoption paperwork moved forward. It was the fastest approval anyone in the courthouse could remember. Carl Brecker's arraignment took place on a Thursday morning. He stood before the judge in an orange jumpsuit with his wrists shackled. His lawyer asked for bail. The prosecutor presented his history. There had been complaints before. Neighbors in 2 other towns had reported concerns years ago. A girlfriend had filed a police report about his temper. None of it had been followed up. None of it had mattered until now. The judge denied bail. Carl would remain in custody until trial. Mila did not attend the arraignment. She was not ready. Elena had asked if she wanted to go, and Mila had shaken her head without speaking. But Elena went. She stood in the gallery with a folded piece of paper in her hands. When the judge asked if anyone wished to make a statement, Elena stepped forward. She read Mila's words aloud. Simple sentences written in a child's handwriting. Words about a dark room and a belt and the feeling of being invisible. Words about giving up hope. Words about a biker at a gas station who gave her a phone and told her to call if she ever needed help. The courtroom was silent when Elena finished. She stopped believing anyone would save her, Elena said quietly. Until someone did. Mila sat at a small wooden desk in her new room. Her pencil moved slowly across a piece of paper. She was drawing a butterfly with purple wings and yellow spots. The colors were bright. The lines were steady. 3 months had passed since the park. Her room was painted light blue now. Elena had let her pick the color. There were stuffed animals lined up on her bed. A teddy bear with a missing eye. A gray elephant with floppy ears. A small plush dog that Mila held every night when she slept. The nightmares still came, but not every night. Not anymore. Elena appeared in the doorway with a glass of juice in her hand. She watched Mila draw for a moment before speaking. "That's beautiful, little bird." Mila looked up. A small smile crossed her face. It was still rare, but it was real. "It's for my teacher," Mila said softly. "She likes butterflies." Elena walked over and set the juice on the desk. She ran her hand gently over Mila's hair. "She's going to love it." School had started 2 weeks after Mila moved in. The first day was hard. Mila had stood at the entrance of the building and refused to move. Elena had knelt down and held her hands and told her it was okay to be scared. By the end of the first week, Mila had made one friend, a girl named Sophie, who sat next to her in class and shared her crayons without asking for anything in return. By the end of the first month, Mila had 2 friends. She ate lunch with them every day. She laughed at their jokes. She started raising her hand in class. Therapy was slower. Some sessions, Mila talked the whole time. She told the counselor about Carl, about the belt, about the hunger, and the silence, and the phone hidden behind the microwave. Other sessions, she did not speak at all. She sat in the chair and stared at her shoes and let the minutes pass in silence. The counselor never pushed. She just waited. Some nights Mila woke up crying. She did not always remember why. Elena would come into her room and sit on the edge of the bed and hold her until the shaking stopped. She never asked questions. She just stayed. Healing was not a straight line. It moved forward and backward and sideways. But it was happening. Duke visited once a month. He always called Elena first to make sure it was okay. He never stayed more than an hour. He never pushed Mila to talk or hug or do anything she did not want to do. He brought small gifts each time. A book about horses. A set of colored pencils. A tiny toy motorcycle that Mila kept on her windowsill. Most visits, they just sat together in the living room. Sometimes Mila showed him her drawings. Sometimes she told him about school. Sometimes they did not talk at all. One afternoon in early spring, Mila looked up from her coloring book and studied Duke's face. "Can I ask you something?" she said quietly. Duke nodded. "Anything." Mila set down her pencil. Her eyes were serious. "You had a daughter, didn't you?" The room went still. Elena froze in the kitchen doorway. She had never told Mila about Lily. She did not know how Mila knew. Duke was quiet for a long moment. His hands rested on his knees. His jaw tightened. "I did," he said finally. His voice was rough. "Her name was Lily. She was about your age when she died." Mila watched him carefully. She did not look away. "What happened to her?" Duke closed his eyes. 15 years of guilt pressed down on his chest. He had never talked about this. Not to anyone outside his brothers. But something about Mila's quiet gaze made him speak. "A bad man broke into our house while I was away," he said. "I wasn't there to protect her. I should have been. But I wasn't." Mila listened without interrupting. Her small hands folded in her lap. When Duke finished, the silence stretched between them. Elena wiped her eyes in the kitchen and stayed perfectly still. Then Mila spoke. "She would be proud of you." Duke's breath caught in his throat. His eyes opened slowly. He looked at the small girl sitting across from him. The girl who had been through so much pain. The girl who still found a way to offer comfort to someone else. He did not respond with words. He reached out and put his hand gently on her shoulder. Mila did not flinch. She leaned into his touch just slightly. They sat together in silence. Two people who understood loss. Two people learning how to heal. That evening after Duke left, Mila helped Elena wash the dinner dishes. She stood on a step stool and dried each plate carefully before placing it on the counter. When they finished, she looked up at Elena with something new in her eyes. "Can you teach me the signal?" Mila asked. "The one that saved me. I want to teach it to other kids." 6 months after the park, Duke stood in the gymnasium of Ridley Creek Elementary School. Rows of small chairs filled the center of the room. Children sat with their hands in their laps, looking up at the front where a group of men in leather vests had gathered. Parents lined the back wall. Teachers stood near the exits. A few social workers had come from the county office to observe. The Iron Oath Brotherhood had never done anything like this before. But Duke had made some calls. He had talked to the principal. He had explained what the club did at schools in other towns. He had asked for a chance. The principal had said yes. Harlan spoke first. He introduced the club and explained why they were there. He talked about safety, about trust, about knowing when something feels wrong. His voice was calm and steady. The children listened without fidgeting. Then Duke stepped forward. He crouched down so he was closer to the children's eye level. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "you might be in a situation where you can't ask for help out loud. Maybe someone is watching you. Maybe you're scared. Maybe you don't have the words." He held up his hand and pressed 3 fingers against his leg. "This is a signal. 3 fingers means you need help. 2 fingers means you're not safe. 1 finger means please come get me now." He demonstrated slowly. 3, 2, 1. "If you ever use this signal," Duke continued, "and an adult sees it, they will know. They will help you. You don't have to explain. You don't have to say anything. The signal says it all." The children practiced together, small hands pressing fingers against small legs. Some of them giggled. Some of them looked serious. All of them remembered. Then Elena walked to the front of the room. Mila walked beside her. Mila wore a yellow dress with white flowers. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail. She looked taller than she had 6 months ago, stronger. She stood in front of the other children and took a deep breath. "My name is Mila," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. "I used this signal when I needed help. A man saw it. He came for me. He saved my life." The room went completely silent. Parents in the back wiped their eyes. Teachers looked at each other. The children stared at Mila with wide eyes. "If you ever feel scared," Mila continued, "use the signal. Someone will see. Someone will help. I promise." She demonstrated the signal one more time. 3 fingers. 2, 1. Then she stepped back and stood next to Elena. Elena put an arm around her shoulders and held her close. The room erupted in applause. After that day, the Iron Oath Brotherhood became a regular presence in schools across the region. They partnered with child welfare organizations. They ran charity rides that raised money for foster care programs. They visited shelters and handed out books and toys and sometimes just sat with kids who needed someone to listen. The town of Ridley Creek changed how it saw bikers. People waved when the motorcycles rolled through. Shop owners put up signs welcoming the club. Children pointed and smiled instead of hiding behind their parents. Duke never asked for recognition. He never gave interviews or posed for photographs. But recognition found him anyway. A local newspaper wrote a profile about the club's work. A national podcast featured Mila's story. Families across the country learned the three-finger signal. Parents taught it to their children. Teachers added it to their safety lessons. The signal spread because people cared, because people shared, because people understood that protecting children was not someone else's job. It was everyone's responsibility. Years passed. Mila grew older. She graduated from middle school and then high school. She went to college and studied social work. She became an advocate for foster children. She spoke at conferences. She wrote letters to kids in shelters across the country. In every letter, she told them the same thing. The thing she wished someone had told her when she was small and scared and alone. Someone is always willing to help. You just have to find them. And sometimes, they find you. On a quiet evening in late summer, Duke sat on the porch of Elena's house. Mila sat beside him in a wooden rocking chair. The sun was setting over the hills in the distance. Orange and pink light spread across the sky. Neither of them spoke. They did not need to. Duke looked out at the horizon. Mila looked at him. Two survivors. Two people who had lost everything and found something new. A family built not by blood but by choice, by courage, by the simple decision to show up when it mattered most. The world is full of children who need someone to notice, someone to act, someone to believe that their silence is a cry for help. Pay attention to the quiet ones. Do not judge by appearance. Act when you see something wrong, because courage can come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes, a single phone call in the dark can change everything.